Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Who the Hell Asked. Byron and Slade here, and what a wild ride this week was.
Yeah, what a wild ride. So we got a lot of clarification on a lot of topics that we brought up the previous week with speculation about the future of Xbox and all that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get underway, starting with some very troubling concerns from multiple people within the industry for studios at the DICE Awards.
So DICE Awards, if you don't know what that is, it's like one of the big gaming award shows. But yeah, we have some information from two different people. First off, Danny Dwyer on Twitter, Mr. NoClip, the popular crowdfunded video game documentary YouTube channel. Watch their videos, by the way. Great videos over there. But there were 5 points that Mr. Danny made on his Twitter. Industry health check after 2 days at the DICE Awards. Everyone is shit-talking Embracer. Which...
So nobody's surprised.
Not surprised. Of course, they've had more layoffs since. But, you know, it's Embracer layoffs. They happen every other millisecond at this point. Minimal investment coming from publishers. Which is a tad bit concerning, especially for, like, indie games and, like, the smaller games. That's not great.
Yeah, that's really concerning with your major studios like Famco, Nintendo, Sega, Xbox, Microsoft and Sony.
Yeah.
Are like, we're good on having you guys develop smaller titles for us. Thanks.
Yeah.
It's a little concerning.
Yeah. Many VCs, which VCs, venture capitalists, for those who don't know what that acronym is, have tightened belts too, which makes sense. We've been hearing about that not just in the video game industry, in the tech industry for the past, year and a half now at this point?
Yeah.
Of course, something Jason Schreier talked about, I think, last year? At the beginning of last year? With his, games being in development now are like PS6 games thing. With the ever-increasing costs of AAA development a real problem given little core market expansion.
Especially when you factor in the idea that this current generation of tech, like the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, neither of them have performed well or even remotely close to the standards that
even the previous
Sony and Microsoft
generation
would like them set.
Yeah, even the and Survive 24, which real quick, Mr. Matt Piscatella, the executive director and video game industry analyst at Circana, NPD, the sales number people, he tweeted out, Survive 2024 has been the key theme of his convo with publishers and retailers so far this year. As well, industry spending CAGR has been basically flat since the pandemic. No significant upside room for players / hours growth. Costs keep rising, etc. Markets gotta get to GTA 6 and hope. Not the GTA 6 and hope. That was hilarious to me, reading that last sentence.
So long story short, things are looking pretty dire for smaller studios across the industry. With these rampant acquisitions and waves of layoffs going on, right now, job security is at an all-time low.
Yep.
And it's impacting, how well these games are coming out as well. So, they can't just push out these 4K, high-quality titles while working with bare-bones staff and maintain the same quality of work and get it out in a, timely manner that would have it out within, a 3 to 4 year cycle.
Yeah, and...
They're just being pulled from too many different directions at once.
Yeah, and Danny Dwyer has a couple of responses to someone who said to him, gamers don't have any idea that we seem to be careening to an industry crash. And Danny responds with, I'm not convinced that's what's happening, but there's a lot of exposure with certain studios caught up in unsustainable funding models. Game live service. And projects that are trying to find funding. As tough as last year was for that, personal experience, it's tougher now. Also, a lot of studios are downwind of sales or acquisitions they had nothing to do with. Embracer, Saudi Arabia. So there's a lot of hope that the splash damage from any eventual mass firings or sell-offs don't affect them. Talking about it broadly bellies how particular everyone's situation is. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be a very interesting state of things coming up this year with the game industry and just all that stuff. Godspeed to the people who get fired, hopefully, or get laid off for this. Hopefully y'all land on your feet. And you know who I feel the most for? And I know somebody who's been dealing with this. The new graduates who are trying to find jobs in the game industry.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where it probably hurts. So it's obviously you're losing people who've had these jobs for a very long time.
Yeah, or even people
and
who have
it
been in
hurts for them as well.
Yeah,
because now they don't have work.
Yeah, and even
but
people
now there's these jobs are very competitive.
Yeah,
for who gets them, and everybody who's lost their job and everybody coming in, it's now having to compete for very little slots remaining. You're going to see a lot of these developers find other work elsewhere.
Yeah, like they'll try to use their skills maybe in other parts of the tech industry if possible, or hell, they might just go find other work somewhere else.
That's also tough considering that the tech industry as a whole is on the the decline.
Well, yeah, even the stupid fucking AI stuff is starting to be on a bit of a downswing right now. But,
yeah.
Speaking of things, Slade, that are on the downswing, let's talk about PlayStation, because they're on a bit of a downswing, actually.
That's right. So their financial numbers came out, along with some statements made by some corporate executives.
Mm-hmm.
To make a long story short, the PS5 and its software has woefully underperformed their expectations. It's not selling even half as well as they had hoped.
Yep.
And that as of right now, due to the rising development costs and times it takes to make these games, they currently have no major first-party titles planned for the entirety of 2024.
Yeah, so...
Period.
So outlook for the next fiscal year, which I believe will run from April or May of this year to about March of 2025. So yeah, decrease, no plan for release a major franchise title. So you're not gonna see your God of Wars, your Spider-Mans, hell, even something like maybe your Ratchet and Clanks, your Horizons, all that stuff. No, what's probably gonna happen this year is your live service games, your Concords, your Fair games. Maybe there'll finally be another Astrobot game, maybe. But it's gonna be a light year for Sony, and apparently, day to date, year on year, catch up between PlayStation 4 and 5. The PS4 has sold in the same time as the PS5 has been out to now, I think about 3 million more units, which is, because I think it's 57 million versus around 54 million for the PS4 versus PS5. And for network services for PlayStation, which is like PlayStation Plus and stuff, despite the impact of a slight year-on-year decrease in the number of subscribers, revenue increased 11% year-on-year, mainly due to the impacts of a further shift to premium services and price revisions, which we covered that, months ago when that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels like it's been months anyway.
God, yeah, it really fucking does. Yeah, and they, PS5 unit sales for the fiscal year are expected to be around 21 million units, which is a 4 million unit reduction from their original expected number of 25 million units. Whoo! It's... Man! And we thought Xbox had a bit of a yeesh news.
Well, I think there's a lot to do with it that's also outside of the video game industry that's causing the reduced sales for software. I mean, sure, you could point to the lack of software coming out overall. There's a large lack of AAA games flooding the market that we're used to seeing.
Mm-hmm.
that just isn't really happening like this year and last year.
Yeah.
I think the main thing is also we're also dealing, at least here in the US, with some like crazy inflation for things like grocery and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
like people just don't have the money to go spend on really pricey hardware.
Yeah, and
like the PlayStation 5 and
yeah,
whatnot.
if they're spending money on games, it's on games like Lethal Company, it's games like Pal World. It's like those types of hell, even Nintendo to a degree. They're still getting that good money.
Yeah, and I'd argue that right now the portability's, fantastic for
Absolutely.
Nintendo's model. I also think the affordability is another reason why the Switch is still doing remarkably well despite the rest of the industry seemingly in shambles.
Yeah, and that's without price cuts, which is a big thing. Yeah, PlayStation is not, they're not going to be cutting the price of the PlayStation. They're not going to be cutting the price of the PS5 anytime soon.
No, unless things are truly that dire where like we need to get rid of it, but like I don't think we're seeing that anytime soon.
Yeah, because they even
I mean, hell, last week we were literally talking about how Xbox could possibly get out of the market of like console development, which is insane.
Yeah, and PlayStation even mentioned operating income decreased a significant 30.1 billion yen year on year to 86.1 billion yen, primarily due to a deterioration in the profitability of PlayStation 5 hardware, mainly due to promotions, and adjusted OIBDA decreased. Whew, shit. And then you said earlier, Slade, there were some things that were being said by PlayStation corporate heads, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, go ahead and elaborate.
Yeah, so PlayStation so the new PlayStation CEO basically said, like, we need to increase our multi-platform strategy. Which, what could that mean? What do you think?
That's
that
right.
Could
We're going to see more first-party Sony titles come to PC, which obviously I think that was a pretty strong and easy connection to make after the success of like Spider-Man and like God of War on PC. But now, especially that they don't have any first-party titles releasing at all this next fiscal year,
Well,
I think
any
it
major
behooves
titles
them to just go on a porting spree.
Well, any major titles. Obviously, there's still going to be some, like I mentioned, the games as a service, live service games, probably.
Yeah, you got third parties like Square Enix releasing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth in a few weeks as a timed exclusive. So, like, that helps them as well. But I think for their bottom line, they're probably going to go on a PC porting spree. So you're probably going to see announcements of, like, God of War Ragnarok on PC or, like, Spider-Man 2 on PC, things like that.
Yeah,
you might start to see some of that this year.
Yeah, which Sony have already been doing that to an extent. I just think there's a chance we could see a little bit of a faster timeline towards that.
Yeah, because before it was like, okay, we'll do it because like those titles released on the PS4.
Yes.
So like porting them was like, okay, well that was the previous console, so it's fine. It's not interrupting our current business. But now they're like, no, we just need sales like now.
Yeah,
and as in like right now.
Yeah, and I want to read a couple of quotes really, really quick. In the past, we wanted to popularize console in the first party titles. Main purpose was to make the console popular. It is true, but there is a synergy to it. So if you have strong first party content, not only with our console, but also other platforms like computers, first party can be grown with multi-platform, and that can help operating profit to improve, which is a thing Sony has had an issue with. Hence why we haven't really seen price cuts on PlayStation on the PS5.
Yeah.
And he personally thinks there are opportunities out there for improvement of margins, so you'd like to go aggressive in improving our margin performance. God, what a fucking interesting state we are in if we're hearing this from PlayStation. My gut is just faster timelines for first party games going to PC. Not that like, oh, PlayStation's gonna port stuff to Xbox. Oh, PlayStation's gonna port stuff to Nintendo. No, we're not at that point yet.
No, it's just PC. We're talking purely PC. See, they're not in the same situation that Microsoft's in, where Microsoft
Yeah.
which we'll talk about as our next topic,
Yeah.
is going to be porting its titles to all platforms. No, Sony is very much still keenly thinking about its stance in the market as the quote-unquote leader of the high-definition console market.
Yeah, and like obviously Sony are going to keep porting their live service games to PC day one alongside PS5, and look at how well it's done for Helldivers 2. That's been a big new trending game as of late. And that
Yeah,
game,
absolutely.
yeah, and that's
And I mean, you're seeing a lot of like AA titles like really take off.
yeah,
In succession. Last year's darling was like Hi-Fi Rush, and
yeah,
like you just see lots of games like that have these smaller development cycles that are based on the premise of just a really interesting gameplay loop really take off. And then you compare that to a game that released within 2 weeks of that, Forspoken, and that game completely and utterly flopped, despite the billions that was put into its development.
yeah. So like it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Sony this year. I still imagine they're going to have a big showcase to show off some more stuff about the 2024 titles they are releasing, but also show off some of the 2025 titles they have in development. When that will happen, God knows, maybe May or something. I don't know at this point. Like it's easier to predict Nintendo Directs, which we still haven't got one for February yet.
Yeah, funny how that worked out.
Yeah, funny with all that, but it's easier still to predict Nintendo Directs than PlayStation Showcases. God knows when those are going to happen.
Well, that's because PlayStation Showcases seem to be primarily third-party titles, so you have to have a lot more knowledge of just one company and its subsidiary IPs. You have to be thinking about what's Square Enix doing, what's Bandai Namco doing, what's Capcom doing.
Yeah, and well, PlayStation don't really have a pattern generally for their showcases.
Yeah.
Like they might, like the only pattern is they have had one a lot in like September and May. Those are like the 2 months they've usually had them in, but you know. But let's talk about it, Slade. Let's talk about the big elephant in the room, our final topic, the big topic. And shout outs, by the way, to Xbox for having a transcript of this on their website. Shout outs to that. Thank you, Xbox, for this.
Yeah, it makes this fantastically easy.
Yeah.
So, the Xbox podcast, the quote-unquote big boom that was supposed to completely shake up what the future of Xbox is going to be, or the lack thereof.
Yes. So,
and largely a nothing burger outside of confirming that, yes, the ports of 4 specific titles we talked about exist.
Yeah, but there's a lot more interesting to this in that a couple more things of info came out and some stuff you have to look in between the lines for. So let's start off with the aforementioned 4 games. So Phil Spencer said, "I'm not going to name the 4 games. The teams that are building those games have announced plans that are not too far away," which that tells me wee woo PlayStation State of Play or a showcase, or they'll be at a Nintendo Direct.
Yeah, which to me, if Nintendo does have a Direct pretty soon, which, like I said, everyone was saying it was going to be this week, like all the leakers and speculators. Obviously, they were wrong. There's another week ahead of us in February, and then there's a week after that.
Well,
so it could be within the next 2 weeks. Well, I guess if leakers and speculators want to be like, it'll be this week. No, it'll be this week. Broken clock's right twice a day. They'll eventually be right.
I don't think it would be like the last week of February because, Pokemon's doing their thing. But back to this. But there were 2 other big games that were asked about, Slade, which one of which was talked about in a few places, which was Starfield. The other title was Indiana Jones. Phil Spencer confirmed they are not Starfield or Indiana Jones, which I think Starfield is eventually going to happen, and I think Indiana Jones is going to be a similar situation probably to whatever happens with Blade. If you remember when that got announced, there wasn't even a hint of what platform it's going on. And I think we speculated at the time, maybe it's not going to be an Xbox exclusive, which would make sense because it's like Marvel. Like, they'd probably want their games on every platform. And, Marvel's under Disney. And I would imagine there might be a short timeline for platform exclusivity for Indiana Jones. Now that's pure speculation on my part, anyways.
Yeah, I think that's pretty spot on. I think they're going to release it as a timed Xbox exclusive, and then they're going to release it to the other platform. But to be fair, I think that's the fate of almost all Xbox first-party titles moving forward.
Yes, so
primarily because when we were saying that the PS5 like woefully like underperformed expectations, like that's nothing compared to how miserable and how horribly the Xbox Series X has performed.
Like, to put it in perspective, I'm pretty sure it is a 2 or 3 to 1 ratio. Like, for every 2 or 3 PlayStation 5s that have been sold, there has been 1 Xbox Series S or X sold. And apparently, from informed people that know, because Xbox don't publicly put out these numbers, it appears like the Series S is selling around 70 or 80% of the Xboxes, which is it's kind of crazy when you think about it, but also not at the same time, considering, like you said earlier, with the Switch, the affordability factor.
Yeah, I think right now, the industry is kind of forgetting that the most important thing for these consoles, these platforms, is for them to be affordable for the average family or like the average household. Yeah. Not everybody is a hardcore ultra gamer that needs 4K 120 FPS ray tracing, like everything.
Yeah, Nvidia and AMD price your 60 series, 70 series, 5600s, 700s, whatever graphics cards, the lower end ones. Price them better, please. God.
Yeah, they're going to have to. Otherwise, the industry as a whole is just not going to survive.
God, yeah. If you don't know, graphics card prices, especially on like the mid-range end, are fucking out of control. But that's a different talk for a different day. But what are the criteria for the 4 titles? So basically, 2 of them are community-driven games, and the other 2 are smaller titles that have hit their peak on Xbox. So they didn't outright say it, but we could pretty much assume the 2 community games are Sea of Thieves and Grounded, and the 2 smaller games are Hi-Fi Rush and Pentiment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's pretty much all but confirmed at this point.
Yeah.
I think Sea of Thieves and Hi-Fi Rush being the 2 most obvious overall.
Yeah.
But like I said, this is something that we're probably going to see at these other developers' presentations.
Yeah.
So, or as Byron said, sorry. So, like I said, if we see that Nintendo Direct within the next 2 weeks, who knows? I would bet a paycheck that you see Hi-Fi Rush there.
Yeah. So, a big thing we know about now is Activision Blizzard King Games on Game Pass. That was a big thing people were speculating. Not that we covered, but just general speculation, after the acquisition happened.
Right.
Diablo 4 will be the first Activision Blizzard King game coming to Game Pass. That'll be coming out on March 28th. And another interesting factor to this that we could talk about real quick is we got Game Pass subscription numbers for the first time in over 2 years.
Yes.
They are now at 34 million Game Pass subscribers, which you think, oh, that's not too bad, but I believe Tom Warren of The Verge had an interesting note that Game Pass, the new Game Pass number, includes Xbox Game Pass Core subscribers. Now, do you remember Xbox Game Pass Core at all, Slade?
Not really, but I know it was like much cheaper than their normal Game Pass model.
So Game Pass Core is what Xbox Live Gold got turned into.
Oh, so it's Xbox Live subscribers added to that.
Yes, and I'm going to try to remember the numbers off the top of my head at the moment, but
so essentially, and if I'm interpreting this correctly, that's not just their Game Pass subscribers, that's also their Xbox quote-unquote Live subscribers.
Yeah, which
pretty much added up. Yeah. Which that is not good.
Yeah, which the funny thing is that Game Pass Core subscribers don't get access to Diablo 4. Fuck you, Game Pass Core subscribers, I guess. But, and I'm gonna try, if I'm wrong, comment down below, but I'm pretty sure, it is only a loss of about, like, 400,000 subscribers when you combine the last reported Game Pass plus Xbox Live Gold numbers in 2022 compared to the 34 million number we have now. Which
that's still really concerning because instead of going up, the number went down, and even if it's an incremental decrease, that's still really, really bad.
It's not great. It's not great at all. But I'm glad we finally got to know that number for the first time in a while. It gives us a better picture of Game Pass, and Game Pass that's still a lot of money though each month.
Yeah, and to me, and this is just my speculation, this is why a lot of people were like, they're going to get out of the console race market. I do think there is a legitimate interest for Microsoft to get Game Pass on every platform.
Yeah.
Including whatever Nintendo has, especially including the various PlayStations that are going to continue to come out over the years.
Yeah.
So they did say anything about that at the press conference. I think they're keeping that very close to the vest. Yeah. But I don't think this press conference has halted or slowed down any speculation of things heading in this direction.
Yeah. So Phil Spencer, someone mentioned at this event that there is going to be some sort of hardware presented during the holiday, which that's interesting. What do you think they could mean by hardware?
So, if they wanted to take another hardware approach, like, okay, we're just abandoning the Series X like Nintendo abandoned the Wii U or whatever, the only thing that could possibly lead me to that would come up as a remotely good idea is a portable console hybrid. Because that is a tried and true playbook. But, like, I'm not really sure that would behoove Microsoft to do when they already have something to that front in the Steam Deck out there in the market as well.
Well, not necessarily the Steam Deck. The one that, like, is, like, the more promoted as, like, really works with Xbox is the ROG Ally.
Yeah, the ROG Ally even. Yeah. So it's like, if they're putting new hardware, I would legitimately be, like, stunned.
Now, some have speculated they might pull a Sony and do, like, a revised Xbox Series X that might be digital only, which that would be interesting, to say the least.
Help them drive the price down a little bit.
Maybe. And, like, they didn't talk about this, which was interesting, considering the talks from, I believe, Jez Corden on that Microsoft laid off their internal, like, retail physical games team to have it potentially be outsourced. And, the rumors of Xbox dropping physical games in general, like, that was not talked about at all in any way, shape, or form, which is...
It's actually the first I'm hearing about it, like, real talk.
Yeah, but, like, that's something else, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think that doesn't really come across as the hugest surprise. We already knew that the industry was moving away from physical editions of games.
Yeah.
I think right now it's a 70-30 ratio of digital versus physical, and that number is only going down for physical.
Yeah.
I might be being generous. It actually might be something like 80-20 or even like 85-15.
Right. Hell, I think it's 90-10.
Yeah, like right now, it's like we're very much approaching the age of digital, media of all kinds, video games, movies.
Yeah, because like
essentially, you will own nothing.
Like especially with like movies and TV shows. I think we may have covered it, but Best Buy started getting rid of physical like movies and TV shows. I think we covered it because like there was a concern that games were going to be gotten rid of as well, but they clarified, no, we're not getting rid of games. Physical games are still going to be here. And I know Nintendo, I think it's like a 50-50 or maybe a little less split for like physical versus digital. I think Sony is like maybe, I think it's around 60, 70.
I'll say this about Nintendo. I think when it comes to Nintendo products too, it feels like there's a larger base for collecting them physically.
Oh, absolutely.
Compared to every other platform. So, like, I think if Nintendo is running a 50-50 split, which I don't even believe that's true. I still think at this point Nintendo is even coming more into the digital, starting to outweigh the number of physical copies sold. It's purely because of that aspect.
Yeah, and like there are collectors for like physical Xbox stuff. It's not as much as Nintendo. Sony is a bit more than Xbox. Not as much as Nintendo. It's mainly for older consoles.
Yeah, and also because average families are buying Nintendo products more. I think those families are more likely to buy physical products for their kids.
Yeah.
Than anything else.
Yeah.
Whereas core gamers are like, that's inconvenient. I just want to download it to my console and my hard drive.
But yeah, and I think we briefly mentioned this game earlier. And at this podcast, Xbox even mentioned, hey, Pocket Pair have been doing really fucking well, helping out Game Pass a little bit, because right now, Sony does not allow early access games on their platform. So,
which is something it's super fascinating. So, like, who knows? Maybe a Game Pass, you give it like a few like months away. Maybe you see Power World on Game Pass. Like, who the fuck knows?
No, no, it's already on Game Pass, actually.
Oh, well, there you go, guys. It's already on Game Pass.
Yeah, it's already on Game Pass. But yeah,
absolutely
so
not.
It was a 22-minute pod. It's a YouTube video. Hell, this episode is probably longer than the entirety of that Xbox podcast.
Yeah. We talked about some other topics.
Yeah,
too,
but
sure.
It was not as like doom and gloom as some people thought, which like I am still of the belief this could have just been a press release, for God's sake.
Yeah, I think they played up the whole, oh God, Microsoft making a big change, and they're like, yeah, let's take advantage of this for some free publicity.
Like, maybe,
actually,
like maybe years down the line, this will be looked at as like the start of a big change, which this could be. This could be the potential start of a big change.
This could be the first step towards that, them getting out of the console market, going purely like Game Pass is the future of gaming, all that jazz. Sure.
Yeah, or maybe they put the Xbox, maybe if they don't release a hybrid handheld this holiday season, maybe they make their own hybrid or work with someone else and have it be branded as an Xbox portable system. That'd be weird, but
yeah. That would be very strange.
Hey, but anything's possible. Anything is possible. But yeah, it's like it was blown out of proportion a little bit. Like, obviously the game stuff, yes, is happening. It is starting. Like Hi-Fi Rush, Grounded, Sea of Thieves, Pentiment, which the funny thing, 2 of those 4 games are from Obsidian, which I find very hilarious, by the way. And one of them is a Rare game. So, I don't know. I just find
a Rare game coming to Switch, I'd be like, we've gone full circle.
Yeah, we have returned full circle, even though new Rare is not the Rare of old. The Rare of old...
No, they're not even remotely close.
Yeah, the Rare of old is now Platonic, actually. Funny enough.
Yes.
Which, goddamn, where's a new game from you all? Please.
Yeah, we're waiting, Platonic. We understand you're struggling like everybody else is, but, there's a demand here.
Yeah, but...
All right, so before we go, let's do one thing we don't normally do. Byron, I'm gonna make you predict a Nintendo Direct. When do you think we're getting this Direct that these leakers just won't shut up about?
All right. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna say there's not one. I'm gonna be a wild man. I'm gonna say there is not one, actually.
So hold on. Let me get this straight.
Yeah.
No 2024 Nintendo Direct, or just no late winter, early spring Direct?
No late winter, early spring Direct, because I think it's gonna be like the Switch one, where we hear about, like, yes, a new system is gonna be on the way within the next fiscal year in like March or April or hell May, whenever the next meeting is, which I think it might actually be in May. but it might also be in April. Who knows? But it's around that time period. Then I think we might get like, if not June, maybe in like September, like some type of like big like showcase thing for the next system to release either in the holiday season or now if they want to really replicate the Switch 2, maybe after tax season.
Yeah,
again.
Absolutely.
But that's my prediction. There'll be a Pokemon Presents in its usual slot. Don't worry, Gen 5 remakes are coming, y'all. Be afraid of that.
Yeah, honestly, like many people have said, I'm of the mindset the best thing for Game Freak and the Pokemon Company that could possibly happen for fans is them to not have anything. Like, actually.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go against you here. I think we see a partner showcase because there is a software drought that's going to happen on Switch this year if we don't see third-party titles.
Yeah.
And I think we are going to see some third-party titles. I think we see a direct mini. It's probably, if you put a gun to my head, I'm going to say this week. But I think it also could be just as likely that they cram it with the Pokemon Presents. It's like Pokemon Presents one day, they have very little to show. Yeah. And then they have the partner showcase.
Yeah, that'd be funny. But yeah, so it was a crazy week already. It's probably gonna get crazy depending on what happens with the gaming news this week. But yeah, so basically Xbox, that podcast could have literally just been a press release you put out like to quell the rumors, to quell the speculation mill, all that stuff.
Well, I think part of the reason, like I said, they obviously like wanted to sell out on it. I also think another reason they did it in podcast form is like, I feel like when companies do like these press releases or make these PR statements, I feel like a lot of people don't take them at face value.
Well, you can't really take
what they said at a podcast where it's like, it's more of a casual setting where it's like, okay, yeah, he's probably speaking facts.
Well, yeah, but like they didn't really like lay out plans and like,
no, for sure. That's why I said the thing was largely a nothing burger outside of confirming there's 4 games.
Again, this could have been a press release because they didn't. You still had to read between the lines, anyways.
Yeah.
So it was like, what was the point? I guess maybe get a few more views on your podcast nobody knows about. Nobody but the hardcores know about. Anyway.
Yeah, but that's going to be it for this episode. For everybody, thank you for tuning in. Please like and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate every bit of support you guys give us. It allows us to continue doing what we do, even though we're kind of small and just doing it because we want to. But, whatever. We would really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And this has been Slade.
And this has been Byron. We'll see you all whenever on the other side of this. Is it happening? Is it not happening? Nintendo situation and all the other gaming news that happens. Bye, everybody.